everybody. Welcome to January 3rd. So, about 36 years ago, on this day, January 3rd, 1983, something really, really amazing happened. And fortunately, it really doesn't get the attention it deserves in history books. January 3rd, 1983, the game Plinko debuted on the great American classic, The Price is Right. Now, if you take a look at me, you might think that old librarian must have enjoyed 1983. But you'd be incorrect. I wasn't born yet. But I did like The Price is Right. In fact, I liked it very much when I was about 9 years old. And I've already broken everything. Oh, you did it for me, you sweet man. Oh, God bless you, Ross. He knows me so well. I can't, that thing? I can't do it. So, when I was 9, I was a rather precocious 9-year-old, and I was different. Oh, yeah, right. As you can see, I was some combination of a bookish Keebler elf and a very old man. I have to say, I always enjoyed a good paradox, The Little Giants. That's not in this presentation, but if you'd like to talk to me about paradoxes after the show, you know where to find me. Somewhere in the audience. Anywho, so when I was 9, this lady here, I wasn't like the other 9-year-old kids. I grew up in Florida, so I hung out with a lot of what you might call adults, like old people. They love daytime television, and The Price is Right was one of the few television programs that I could enjoy with my elderly babysitter and with my grandma. And part of the reason I could enjoy it is because I think The Price is Right has this kind of, it's like a great equalizer, because all you have to do well in The Price is Right is shop. And if you're an American citizen, you shop. Anyone can do this. And it's also like the middle-class luxuries that, rich people don't need to be on the show. They're not going to buy a bread maker. They buy bread from a store. It's us, upper middle-class folks who are like, wouldn't it be jolly to make bread? And then you see it on the TV and you're like, I know that cost $87. And that's your pride. That's your moment. So, I grew up reading all of the advertisements in the newspaper because I really wanted to get good at this game. I wanted to know how much these things cost. God, dining room sets are expensive, let me tell you. One summer, the summer of 1999, I was 9 years old, and I got really into The Price is Right. I watched it every single day, and I started to get better. As we librarians tend to do. We get better at things we learn. So I was like, I want to be on this show. And my mom had to break it to me that I couldn't be on the show because I wasn't 18. But I wasn't willing to take no for an answer. So this lady right here wrote a letter to Bob Barker. We're going to read it together now. Don't look ahead. Okay, thank you. We'll just go through it once, and then we'll hit the highlights. Dear Bob Barker, you are a nice man! Exclamation point, crossed out, period. We know the show is about enthusiasm, but we don't want to push it all out in the first go. Someday, I wish to be on your show, but I'm only 9. And you will be retired by the time I'm 18. That's 11 years from then. And just so you know, Bob Barker retired in June of 2007. 1 year and 5 days before I turned 18. Obviously, you didn't care about this letter. I dream. Obviously, I missed the of, had it over here. I'm an editor now, just so you know. Once an editor, always an editor. I dream of just seeing you in person Exclamation point. I admire you. Now, I like that. I just want to say for my 9-year-old self, like, if this guy doesn't like me, I don't know what else I can do. I said he's a nice man. I admire him. Sure, I've made him come face to face with the mortality of his career, but what else could I do that's worse? Oh yes, every night I pray, God, let Bob Barker live until I turn 30. Well, we've heard some dissing on the Catholic Church. All I know is I'm not 30 and Bob Barker's still breathing, so you tell me who's using the magic here. I was wondering, I think I wrote I was wonder, but let's just see. I was wonder how you are doing. I'm doing great. So, just so we're clear, I'm not gonna fall. This, just because we're here. I was wondering how you are doing, comma, I doing great. Now, you might think, a comma's place, but since there is no actual verb in the second half of this sentence, not a comma's place. Grammatically correct. Not a good sentence, but grammatically correct. Every day in the summer, I play along. I get better every day. You seem so fair. I actually wrote F-A-R-E, which is a different meaning. But I fair. I also want to point out, look at these A's. Somebody's going through a transition. Am I going to be a regular nerd or a cool lady when I get to middle school? Only, well, let's see what you guys thought. Do you think I made it as a cool lady? I would never write my A's like that. It's incredibly inefficient. You seem so fair. I think that the people, and then it stops. And so this is obviously a draft. To be honest with you, I'm not sure what happened to the actual letter. If I remember correctly, I gave it to my mom, and it got mailed. But when Ross and I were talking about doing this show, he was like, you gotta finish the letter. Like, that's what you have to do. That's how we make peace with this, unfinished business. But as I looked back on the letter, I started to notice something about my 9-year-old self. God, there's my time! Okay. I noticed something, which is, I'm just gonna go back. I'm not gonna use a laser pointer, forget it. You are a nice man. I admire you. You seem so fair. So, something about my 9-year-old self, which, if there's more where this came from, and my 9-year-old self was really obsessed with justice and fairness, and it was something I liked about The Price is Right. As I mentioned, you could be rich, poor, you could be black, white, you could be a kid or an old lady, and you could play this game together. And if you watch the show, it makes American consumerism feel amazing. Like, everyone is it's American values in their finest. People know the prices of things, they cheer each other on, and even when somebody loses, Bob Barker would be like, oh, sorry you didn't win, but John, you're getting an RV. It was like, you could have sympathy and pride at the same time, which seems like a paradox, but it's not, it's complexity. And if I think about my 9-year-old self, I think I'd be doing a disservice to her, because I don't think my 9-year-old self would be proud of me if I spoke for the people, because that's not fair. I think that the people, ... metaphorical ... that's for y'all. You guys are now able to go on The Price is Right and say what you need to say, and you need to say it on your shirt. So, I might not care about Bob Barker or The Price is Right 20 years later, but as I approach my 30th birthday, I just have one thing to say to you, Bob Barker. You better get ready. Thank you very much.